Everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of the Mirror Gaming Walkthrough. It's a pleasure to see you again. I was off last week. I'm back in the hosting chair. How has that happened? I'll tell you how that's happened. It's Nathan Bliss's birthday, so we want to wish gaming editor Nathan Bliss a happy birthday. 21 today. Who would have thought? Anyway. I'm hearing myself in my ears. That's weird. But no, we've got a cracking show for you today on the Mirror Gaming Walkthrough. Overwatch 2 has come to Steam, but nobody seems to be particularly happy about it. We'll be diving into that with our resident Overwatch 2 expert. And then we've also got news on a little game you may have heard of called Baldur's Gate 3. That's lighting up the Steam charts by comparison. And then classic Call of Duty. What year is it? Because two classical Call of Duty games, some of the best Call of Duty games in my opinion, are doing really well at the moment. But before that, let's do the usual thing and roll titles.
Are you prepared to go public with your KD online or
no?
Everyone thinks he or she is the best football expert on the planet.
You see it in the back page of the Mirror, deal agreed.
I think the most important thing is just to have fun. What?
310?
No, what button is it?
Well, hello.
We're ready to come for the W, yeah?
Ooh, 12. Ooh.
Here we go. If you can master second man press, you will defend 10 times better.
Today I'm going to be reviewing the PSVR 2 headset.
And we're back, and we're streaming live on YouTube today. So if you are watching the Mirror Gaming Walkthrough on YouTube, be sure to be part of the conversation, leave a comment, and we'll be sure to respond to it. But before that, I'm your host for today, Aaron Potter, gaming content creator, and it is my pleasure to be joined by two of my esteemed colleagues. We've got my fellow gaming content creator and hardware expert. It is Jasmine Mannan. How are you doing today, Jasmine?
I'm doing good. It's nice to be able to take a step back because I hosted last week and I can just chill out a bit more, be a hater, complain about stuff, as always.
That is primarily why we get you on the show, to complain about, I think it's remakes and the need for them, Project Q.
It's the opposite. I like remakes. Scott doesn't. But thank you for bringing that up. Keep flogging that dead horse.
I will. I was just going to say, what's Adam L's stance on it again? Maybe he'll pop up later and let us know. But I'm also joined by social video expert and gaming content creator Matt Aldus. Are you doing all right, Matt? It's been a while since we've been on the pod together.
I never know how to answer that question, but I think so. I think I'm all right, yeah.
Well, that's good. At least it's better to think you're all right than think you're not all right. But I tell you who isn't all right, and I think that's the folks over at Activision Blizzard that probably were expecting the launch of Overwatch 2 to go a little bit better than it has been. So yeah, to get into our first story today, Overwatch 2 recently made its Steam debut on August 10th, 2023, just less than a week ago, in a move by Activision Blizzard to reignite the free-to-play hero shooter's popularity. But shortly after launch, the game was awarded the prestigious honor of being the platform's worst user-reviewed game ever on the platform. And that's according to the website Steam 250, which tracks the top 100 worst Steam games as voted by users. The reviews take explicit issue with how monetization is handled, and one reviewer even wrote, Overwatch 2 is an attempt to pry open your wallet while masquerading as the game it used to be. So harsh words there from the Overwatch 2 community. Jasmine's making a funny face at the moment. So I've dabbled in the dark arts of Overwatch in the past. I'm not sure what Matt's situation is, but Jasmine, I think you've made your thoughts on the game clear before. Like, was this a shock to see that people take such umbrage with Overwatch 2 coming to Steam?
Okay, I will hate on Overwatch 2 to the ends of the earth for no reason other than it's funny to hate on it. That's literally it. Like, I actually really like the game. I play the game a lot. And I think the fact that Overwatch 2 is a bad game, being a meme, has now actually blown up in Activision Blizzard's face with these Steam reviews, right? It's like, it was funny for a bit. It was funny how Overwatch is terrible and stuff. It's a good joke. It's a good joke, but it's not actually, like, that's not what the majority of the community think. And I think this has actually come off of the backlash of the fact that recently Overwatch were meant to be bringing out a story mode and then axed the whole thing in place of paid missions, which, yep, you guys thinking, what on earth are you talking about, Jasmine? Missions that you pay for in the game? Yep. Yeah, that's what they've
Sounds
done.
outrageous. Sounds outrageous.
So that's why I think people are saying that that Overwatch 2 now is like a money grab and stuff, because the game is free to play. So from my perspective, I'm kind of like, how is that a money grab? It's free to play. The first edition of Overwatch, you have to pay to play it at all, and now it's free to play.
Yeah.
And you get like a battle pass, and you can pay for cosmetics and stuff like that, which are not, you don't have to buy them. No one is holding a gun to your head and telling you guys you have to buy the skin, otherwise you can't play the game. It's not happening. You can play it for free. The story mode being asked for these paid for missions, yeah, completely agree with that. That is bollocks, absolute bollocks. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that word, but I'll just roll with it.
Well, you said it now, and you said it twice. Let's go.
But I don't think Overwatch is bad enough to have racked up this response on Steam. Like, as soon as you go onto the Steam page for it, it is literally just like, bring back free loot boxes, and it's like, oh, no free PvE, not recommended. And it's like, these people, look, this one says I have over 1,000 hours in Overwatch 1 and 2 combined, and then they've put not recommended. What do you mean? What do you actually mean? You
Surely
don't recommend a game? You've put 1,000 hours in?
Yeah, who else do you want the opinion from?
No, but I'm just saying, like, how can you not recommend a game? And then, by the way, it says they had 8 hours of it at time of review, so obviously at through Steam as opposed to the Blizzard client. And then after leaving this review, they played another 11 hours of the game. Like, what is going on? So,
well, yeah, like I dabbled with the first Overwatch, and I think like the part of the issue is that the game comes from like a different era of like you sell someone a box game, then you sell them microtransactions for it, and I would say that like that's not a possible thing to pull off anymore. But guess what? Activision Blizzard are pulling it off with a game right now, and it's called Diablo 4, and that's not free to play. Doesn't show any signs of being free to play. But Matt, what's your sort of history with Overwatch? Have you ever had an interest in it? It's obviously a hero shooter. I guess you'd call it a rival to Warzone. But yeah, what's your take?
I mean, I wouldn't call it a rival to Warzone. I mean, as much as it's just an FPS game. But I've played it for a little bit, but I've not like, I don't think I'm any particular authority on it. But I mean, it does sound a little bit like. I have no idea. It doesn't make sense if like for this to be true, but it sounds like they're like struggling to work out how to monetize it if it's been free for so long. I don't know, but certainly a game. I think the problem you've got here is a game that's been free for so long, and then the moment you need to start paying for it.
but it's actually the opposite. The game was paid for, and then. So that was with Overwatch 1, it was paid for. And then Overwatch 2 went free.
Oh, yeah. Right.
And then Overwatch 2 went free to play.
Is free to play. And now they're trying to add monetary things in there. Which, I mean, which game isn't doing that?
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
It's a battle pass now as well, isn't it, Jasmine? It's not loot boxes anymore as well.
Yeah, it's a battle pass. You can buy things directly from the shop. Exactly the same as Fortnite. You can buy things straight from the shop. And there's a battle pass system as well, so you have two options there. The only difference with Fortnite is that with Fortnite you get like enough V-Bucks that you can buy the next battle pass straight off of the back of the last one, but you can't do that with Overwatch. You have to pay money, and I think it's like I know exactly how much it is. It's £8.39 for the battle pass.
You were playing it today, Jasmine. Before the pod, you were saying she does her research. Everyone, all right? This is coming straight from
as soon as I went on my lunch break, I loaded up straight into Overwatch 2 today.
It was really hard moving your cursor from League of Legends to Overwatch, wasn't it? It was like like moving the hand over, but your soul broke. But anyway, I just want to take the time to acknowledge that we do have some commenters in the chat, some familiar. I was going to say familiar faces then, but some familiar names certainly. We've got JD Incinerator. Oh, a good friend of the show. He says, I take user reviews with a grain of coarse salt. And yeah, we were sort of talking about that there. Jasmine was quick to mention. JD also says, I only barely played the original Overwatch. Am I right in saying that Overwatch ignited the whole loot box fad, even though they weren't monetized? I remember at the time, the original Overwatch, like the whole fact that you didn't know what you were going to get out of boxes, like a loot box in the most traditional sense in a console game, like that was a big thing at the time. It was like, how can you do this?
But they were free, right? So it wasn't like.
But I'm pretty sure you could pay for loot boxes at some point. No, like to
I don't
re-roll
know.
stuff.
I don't
Who
know.
knows? But yeah, and then we got Nathan in the chat. Birthday boy Nathan says, "Hello, breaking news: Bethesda has confirmed that Starfield has gone gold. I should hope so as well because it comes out in less than a month. Blimey! Preload begins tomorrow for Xbox, Windows PC, August 30th for Steam. So any Game Pass users out there, I'm assuming you can preload it onto your Xbox. And then we've got Adam L in the chat says the top comment on Steam is hilarious. Jasmine, do you want to go ahead and look at the top comment on Steam and see if it's PC or?
I can't read it out.
Yeah.
I've already got it up.
All right,
I've got
then.
it open. It can't.
Okay.
You cannot read that out on YouTube.
I mean, and Jasmine's already said some questionable things on the channel already, so the fact that she can't read that out. But no, yeah, I think Overwatch 2, just as like a passing observer of sorts or ever, like since it went free to play, I was really excited to try it because, as you know, I'm like the dedicated Paladins fan, which is basically an Overwatch rip-off, I'll admit it. But I think it says a lot that even though it's gone free to play, people like me, people like Matt, we've not really felt the pull to play it. But the fact that it's so notorious that enough people have voted for it to be the worst game ever on Steam says a lot that there's a lot of interest in it. And guess what? I bet that Activision Blizzard, they don't really care as much about how the game reviews, providing you're doing two things, playing and paying. So, and until that happens, I don't think we've got a major issue.
That was a beautiful rhyme. That was a beautiful.
I worked very hard on it. Yeah.
When did it actually? When did it actually get put onto Steam? Was it this week?
It was the 10th of August, so yeah, last week sometime.
Last week. So less than a week, and it's already, even though all the reviews are bad, it's already managed to accumulate 130,000 reviews. Come on,
Which is
like
crazy.
How have that many people like found time in their day to go and like leave a review for this game on Steam and then go and play another like however many hours of it after leaving that review?
It feels like Steam comments like almost have a community within themselves, like of people that like
definitely.
to comment or like and so like you were saying or alluding to earlier about the like it being a meme that is like the worst game ever. I wouldn't put it past the community to, as a collective effort, to make that like a reality by just negatively commenting on it. But I think the thing that I find confusing is what is being complained about is
This is the thing. There's no substance behind any of these reviews.
Like it happens in every game, and I guess like if you take paid for missions, they're kind of maybe it's the fact that they're trying to turn like DLC into microtransactions, like by charging for like individual story missions or individual missions, like. Because we get that the same thing happens again in other games. Like we've got Modern Warfare 3 coming out soon. That's £70-80, and it's essentially just a big add-on to Modern Warfare 2. It's not like a brand new game in and of itself.
You break my heart, Matt. You break my heart.
So I don't see that as being a negative. I think the moment it becomes a hard negative is when you're being forced to have to pay money to be able to play or participate in the game, which is I feel is closer for games like Call of Duty at the moment than like what's happening with Overwatch 2.
Well, that definitely seems to be the case in terms of what Jasmine was saying earlier about the Battle Pass, like because that's a shady tactic that Blizzard have been criticised for in Diablo 4, not to keep bringing it back to that game, but obviously that's another online successful game made by Blizzard, and you cannot earn enough currency to pay for the next Battle Pass, which is something very different to how Fortnite, and that was one of my favourite parts about Call of Duty, being totally honest with you. Back when Black Ops Cold War came out at the beginning of the PS5 Xbox Series generation, me and friends really got into Cold War, and it was that constant drip feed of I've got to play enough to, and like Overwatch 2 doesn't even have that, so I kind of can't help but feel like Blizzard are mucking it up. I had no idea that people's hate for Overwatch 2 was like a meme. I'll be totally honest with you, like that it was cool to hate on Overwatch 2. So I guess what we're seeing is a result of like the people that have genuine disconcerns with how their once great hero shooter, because let's not forget, guys, this won like 2016, I think the original came out. That won like Game of the Year at a lot of places, and that was like a big deal for like a multiplayer centric game. And then to slowly see it decline when you've got other games out there, online games that are still doing, marginally well. Fortnite's doing all right, I hear these days, but I never hear the community of Apex Legends kicking off as much. But I'm happy to be corrected. I don't know if anybody's got any knowledge there.
Heard anything about Apex for
That's
months.
They keep themselves to themselves. They enjoy the content. Like, God bless them. Yeah, but like Destiny 2 right now just had a big expansion, and apparently nobody's happy with it. It's like, oh, this season's terrible. The season's terrible. And I think as we've transitioned from that release a game as a multiplayer mode to games that have to be always online, the obligation to keep that quality bar high just becomes so much more untenable. Like, how many teams are working on Call of Duty these days? It's got to be like 8 or 9.
Yeah, it's definitely not just like one person and a dog. It's but I think like with the online stuff as well, there is always an element with these sorts of games, I think, which is kind of frustrating, and I do feel like it fits into that sort of thing of having to force that you have to pay to participate. It's the fact that if you don't keep on top of unlocking all the latest weapons and having the latest skins or the latest this or that or whatnot, you don't really stand much chance of competing on a level playing field with other people. So for competitive games, I feel like the microtransactions and having to pay for this and that is awful. However, when it's like, if it's like story driven, I really don't see a problem with it.
That's what I was going to say with Overwatch, is that you don't really get, the only thing you get out of microtransactions are cosmetics. No, it's not stuff that's impacting the game. So you don't need to spend money. It's not like a pay to win. There are lots of pay to wins out there where, okay, you spend money, you get access to better weapons, you get access to better characters, whatever. That doesn't happen with Overwatch. At the start of a new season, there'll be a new hero that comes out, which you can get earlier access to if you buy the battle pass, but then you can only play them in casual games. You can't even play them in competitive games anyway. They're locked in competitive games for the first 2 weeks, so that way everyone has an opportunity to go and sort. You normally unlock the hero through doing like missions, so you have the opportunity to go and do those missions to unlock the characters to then play them in competitive play. Like, so I think they've done that relatively well. And then people complaining about, oh yeah, you need to pay for these story missions and stuff. That is really disappointing. But at the end of the day, like, it's less than £15, and that's kind of like how much you're expecting to spend on these types of normal story-driven games anyway.
I'd rather spend £15 on a story within a game than spend £15 on a battle pass.
Yeah, especially if the game's free to play to begin with anyway. Because there's no difference there compared to if you were buying a game off the shelf back in the day. It has a story mode, sort of thing. But anyway, we've got a couple more comments, some of which are even Overwatch 2 related, which is good. But no, we've got Mario Maestro in the chat. Thanks for watching the show. Mario Maestro says, wish I would be able to get 60 FPS on 1440p with an RTX 3070 and an i5 10600K.
Well done.
Is that in reference to Starfield? I think Mario Maestro is suggesting.
I think so, yeah. So I think Starfield is like locked at 30 FPS on even the Xbox Series X anyway. So
we know that, yeah.
Getting above 30 frames per second on PC, I'm not expecting to do that.
Yeah.
Not to completely derail this conversation, but anyway, yeah.
Mario Maestro, the game doesn't even have vehicles in it, so let's keep our expectations. And I'm joshing a little bit, but Nathan's in the chat says they killed everyone's content from Overwatch 2, Overwatch 1, didn't they? Too, which didn't help.
They didn't.
Yeah, there was like a messy transition, right? I don't know.
They didn't do that. Everyone still got to keep all of their Overwatch 1 content.
Okay.
So if you had any skins that you unlocked in Overwatch 1, which was free to unlock skins in, you got to keep them in Overwatch 2. But there was this period where people were like, are we going to get to keep them? And Blizzard weren't answering. But Blizzard were like just keeping quiet about it. But then when it happened, everyone got to keep it.
They are good at that.
Yeah, I bet it was a logistical nightmare to get all that stuff to carry over, but hey, you're the ones that wanted to, like, I would have kept it as the game was Overwatch, knowing what you've done to it now. And then we've got another classic member of the channel, Adam L. AstroTurf View botted esports scene plus Bobby Kotick equals Overwatch hate. Good on you. Good on you, Adam L. AstroTurf. Wow. And then we've got Falcon Slays YT. He says, hello, I'm new, but I subbed to such legends. Been watching for a while. Glad I could finally catch a stream. Well, thank you very much for subbing to the channel, and it's a pleasure having you here. Falcon also says, by the way, Soldier 76 is my fave. Aimbot without hacks. Let's go.
I do love me some Soldier 76.
So he's the most Call of Duty-esque of the hero.
Yeah, because
right?
it's kind of just like he's a hero that has a rifle, and one of his abilities is just running, which is like great.
and aiming down your sights, or at least it used to.
Yeah, so like his ultimate ability. His ultimate ability is literally an aimbot. He just says, "Oh, I've got you in my sights," and then it locks onto whoever's in front of you. It locks onto whoever's in front of you. It is great. You stand on top of a building, you see everyone, you press your ult, and you've got like a pentakill right there, and then it's great. Absolutely great stuff.
Wow, I wasn't expecting such outpouring for Soldier 76. No.
Oh, I love Soldier 76. I love him. It's great.
And Nathan says, with reference to the Overwatch 1 stuff earlier, oh, my bad. Thank you for holding me to account. That's all right. If we got the right knowledge, we'll say it. Don't worry about that. But speaking of Starfield, somewhat related is the fact that another RPG released recently. Moving on to our next story, Baldur's Gate 3 is an instant hit on PC ahead of its PS5 launch. So in a year stacked with great video games and even RPGs, Baldur's Gate 3 launched on Steam to immense success and critical acclaim. It enjoyed a massive concurrent player count of over 800k in its first week, with the game at one point accounting for 20% of people's total playtime on Steam. Unbelievable scenes. Larian founder Sven Vinka, I'm going to say, had high hopes for Baldur's Gate 3, but said that the launch was still, quote, way beyond, end quote, the studio's expectations. So, by comparison, Larian's last RPG, Divinity Original Sin 2, enjoyed a max peak of 90,000 concurrent players, indicating that the hype and excitement for the CRPG set in the universe of Dungeons & Dragons is a lot higher. Right now, the game remains PC only, but a PS5 version is set to launch on September 6th, with an Xbox Series version planned to come at an undisclosed time in the future. And just before we dip into the Baldur's Gate 3 topic, I want to say Falcon Slays says, besides, Soldier 76 is so gruff, he must have the weirdest threats. I'm just imagining him saying, I don't know how he sounds, but I'll go, I will find you and deep fry you and your whole family to bandits.
Relatively close, yeah.
I was trying to think of the, I've got you in my sights. That's how he says it, isn't it?
Yeah, you've done it quite well, yeah. I'll give you that.
And then Falcon is quoting, I believe, Taylor Swift and Panic at the Disco. So we'll leave him in the chat or leave them in the chat to enjoy it. But no, guys, Baldur's Gate 3, I know that the majority of the people here either haven't played or have like a limited amount of interest in it, but you must have heard about the immense success Baldur's Gate 3's been having. Obviously, Nathan, who's in the chat, played it on stream last week with Scott McRae. I think he had varying opinions about how much he enjoyed it. But yeah, what do you think Baldur's Gate 3 shows ahead of Starfield coming out, which obviously Starfield's not coming to PlayStation, it is coming to PC. So who's going to win in the battle of the RPGs, do you think?
I think Starfield is going to win. I think Starfield's going to win. I think the fact that Starfield is on Game Pass day one, that's enough of an indicator for me. Even if people aren't utilizing their Game Pass, like tons of people have Game Pass, tons of people. They just let it roll over. They pay it every month, goes out their bank account. They don't even think about it. I'm one of them. Yeah, there we go. Aaron does it too. Game Pass, so many people have access to it, and this is the reason why when stuff like this happens, when Starfield comes out day one on Game Pass, people are like, oh yeah, finally I have a reason to use my Game Pass, and then they go and the preload already starting from tomorrow.
You say finally I have a reason to use my Game Pass.
Because I never use mine. I never use mine.
Years of paying for it.
I literally just have it there. And every so often I'm like, oh wow, that game's on Game Pass, I'll get that then. And then I like play it for like an hour and then I don't touch it again. And it just always happens. So with Starfield, I feel like this is finally a reason for me to be like, oh yeah, let me go and preload Starfield a month in advance, or 3 weeks in advance of it coming out, just to be excited for it. And then when it comes out, I'll play it. I don't know how much it will retain my attention because, as we all know, I'm not a big fan of single player games, but I'll play it when it comes out. It's free for me to play. I say free because I'm paying for my Game Pass and have done for too long. But, you know, like, it's there. And I think that's going to be the thought process for a lot of people, even if they aren't interested in those types of games, is that they will just pick it up because it's there on Game Pass.
I think as well, on top of that, it feels like Starfield has had an incomparable amount of like promotion compared
Marketing,
to Baldur's Gate 3. Yeah, like I didn't know. I've heard of Baldur's Gate from, you know, when I was a bit younger.
We're going to say when you were a baby then.
When I was a baby, yeah.
When I was a wee nipper.
When I was a little baby. But I didn't have any idea Baldur's Gate 3 was even coming until it was out and people were raving about it. So obviously, like, the community knew it was coming and you know, a few other people, but to get to people like the wider audience, like where I would consider myself, no idea it was out. Whereas Starfield, I've known for ages that it's coming. So I think just that on its own is enough for it to tower over Baldur's Gate 3 with what it does on opening weekend or opening week.
I think the thing you're getting at, Matt, and is something I agree with, is that Starfield is very much an RPG catered to like the mainstream player, like broader audience, console players that really like getting lost into a world. Also helps that it takes place from the first person perspective, I think, which is a type of view that we tend to associate with first person shooters, and the shooting really looks good in Starfield, especially by comparison to older Bethesda games like Fallout 76. I think the only point, I'm not disagreeing with anything anyone said, but I think the main issue I would take though is the fact that everyone's going to play Starfield on Game Pass, and they're probably going to hit 1 million subs on day one, if not more. I can't remember how many people are subbed to Game Pass these days, but the fact that 800,000 paying players have jumped into Baldur's Gate 3, a type of RPG which has very much got his foot set in the past, is still an impressive feat, I think, and is a sign.
I think that's more of a feat than however well Starfield does. I think that is even more impressive. That
I would still say in terms of a success story, like rather than just numbers, I would say what Baldur's Gate 3 has done is massively refreshing because of the way that they've approached the release of the game, and they haven't coated it with all the other stuff that we all have to sort of put up with that comes with every other game that seems to come out.
No microtransactions in this game.
No microtransactions, and that alone, and the fact that it's just like, you know, get the game, play it, was almost enough to nearly make me go, well, maybe I do want to play a turn-based RPG. But I'm just not like. That's not really my jam most of the time. I feel maybe on odd occasion, but
well, like I said, the PS5 release is still to come next month, which I think is a smart move to say to PlayStation players. It's just happened that you haven't got Starfield, but this whole big RPG that's already critically acclaimed is available for you to play. And I think, you know, even though we call them RPGs, like, it's such a general term now. Like Diablo 4 is an RPG, it's an action RPG. It takes place in real time. Look forward to the channel. There might be a video on that very topic about the strengths of both games. But like Baldur's Gate 3, I think the main thing it has going for it in comparison to Starfield is that it rewards player choice so much. You can literally impact the story, take it in different directions, literally potentially hundreds of hours of a story that's guided around you. Whereas with Starfield, I get the sense that you'll be able to make decisions and you'll be able to like take things in a different direction, but not at the scale that Baldur's Gate 3 is offering. And I'm going to hold my hands up and say it. I think Starfield's going to have a lot of jank as well. Like, we've been burnt by Bethesda too many times.
100%.
And I've not seen like Last of Us PC remake levels of jank from Baldur's Gate 3. It's not really taken off, like if there are any glitches or what have you. Obviously you had the, you can have intimate relations with a man shaped as a bear. That sort of went viral with Baldur's Gate 3. So that was a bit of genius marketing there. But before we carry on this discussion, I want to acknowledge what the chat is saying. Nathan, birthday boy, which I have to call you on today, apologies, Nathan, says, I hated Baldur's Gate 3. Turn-based combat isn't for me, was far too slow and process heavy. So yeah, I think Starfield is more up your street. Falcon Slays says, "What's Baldur's Gate? I hate Game Pass now. If you want, you can ask me why, even though you probably won't." Well, you're right in that I probably won't, but I can probably guess, because the reason I don't like Game Pass is because of what Jasmine said. You're paying for it, but are you actually using it? And is it good for developers as well? So that's the question you need to ask. Nathan says, Baldur's Gate might be the game of the quarter, but Starfield will be a generation-defining game.
That's a big statement.
Yeah,
That's a big
whoa.
statement. I think Nathan is
a
like
grenade in the chat.
Nathan's like really excited. He's like so excited about Starfield, and I don't think he realizes that not everyone shares the same enthusiasm as him about the game.
He was so excited about Zelda. Hasn't picked it up. Hasn't played it once.
Go on, Nathan. What are you going to say? He's got you there. He has got you there. Aaron has completely done you in. What are you going to say?
Well, no, I just hope that Starfield's as great as everybody hopes it to be.
Listen,
do you know what I mean?
I hope it's as great as Nathan hopes it's going to be.
I hope that Starfield is just like you go and play it and you're just blown away and it's amazing and you immediately want to just sink thousands of hours into it. But I still have a healthy level of skepticism. Based on...
I think you need to share that with Nathan, because I think he's just too excited about it.
Like I know there is just as much chance of me loading up Starfield, playing it for 3 to 5 hours and being like, no, as much as there is me.
I think I'll be
to
the
continue.
same.
But that's where Game Pass is good.
I don't know where it's going to fall yet, but I know they're both equally and that's kind of exciting in itself. But
I like that's what Aaron said. I was like, that's where Game Pass is good, to just play a game for like 3 hours and never touch it again.
Well, no,
great.
Like Starfield, I've heard the argument that the game's so big and vast. It's like, why would you pay for Game Pass? You might as well just pay the 40 quid, then it's yours. You don't have to worry about it and everything like that. But what I would say is like, well, if I'm not sure and it's like 40, 50 quid, then I can pay 10 quid, play it for a couple of hours. Okay, I like this. And then, do whatever you want. That's where Game Pass comes in handy. Falcon Slays is really making the most of subscribing to the channel now, because there's comments aplenty in here. Says Starfield is probably one of the most hyped games of the decade, if I'm being honest. So agreeing very much with Nathan there. And they also follow up with, and not to mention that Starfield is being created by the same devs as the award-winning games of Skyrim and Fallout 4.
Also the same devs that made Redfall. I'm just saying.
Well, so the same publisher as Redfall, but yeah, you're right. Like, there's still some involvement there. Adam L says he's poking a bear here. I don't know if you've seen this, Jasmine. Baldur's Gate will be great on the project queue.
Adam L, listen. Sometimes your comments make me feel really upset. I just want to say, and I know you're here just to do that, but please have some decorum. Let's not make me cry today on the walkthrough, right?
Yeah.
Anyway,
but that is true. Like, if you want to play it, I guess you could play it. I'm playing Baldur's Gate on Steam Deck, but Project Q is just streaming, isn't it? So in terms of playing a handheld. Nathan says Zelda has the same world, Starfield has 1,000. But you and I both know, Nathan, that all those worlds are not going to be worth seeing.
Yeah. There's literally, it's like 30% of them are going to have anything going on.
If that.
Really, technically, even at the max, 300 of those worlds are going to have something going on them. And probably, I would venture a guess that at least 100 of those worlds will only have like a couple animals on them, and that's it. And that's what they class as populated. Like, I don't
or like
buy
a tree.
the 1,000 planet thing. I think maybe it's launching with the idea that they will expand and be able to build those planets over time. But at launch, it's because they're banking on the fact that even if there's 200 planets, that's enough of a window to sort of try and get the next 50 ready or something like that. I don't know, but that's what I would venture to suggest. So yeah, this 1,000 planets is just a marketing line.
But exactly that, Matt. Exactly that. And do you know what? I've got no sympathy. Like, when people critique the Starfield devs, Bethesda, for it's only 30%. I'm like, they set that expectation themselves. Like 1,000 planets. Nobody asked you to make 1,000 planets, so you better, And now the what was it? The something's coming home to roost. Can't even remember the expression.
They could have just said. They could have literally, if they went, oh yeah, we've got 100 planets, and all of them are going to be properly populated with different environments, different people, different animals, whatever it might be. That would have been enough for me. I'd have been like, whoa, that's massive. 100 different environments they've created, that's enough. They didn't have to say 1,000 and then set these expectations sky high and then for us to get in game and be disappointed. Like, that's worse than just like
I tend
being
to
truthful.
find that it is this way in most areas of life. Everybody overpromises and underdelivers rather than
we're getting a
underpromises
life
and
lesson now.
Like,
Ooh.
it's
not your Aaron Potter.
over deliver. Like that's all you have to do to keep
Yeah.
people happy. Like
That is
that's
true.
it. That's literally it. And people like still to like it feels like an impossible lesson for studios and companies to learn. And it's just like, don't overstate something. Don't say 1,000 planets and then like a few weeks or a couple months later be like, well, actually, I know we said 1,000, but only 30% of those are going to have anything going on. You can look at them from far away and they'll look like planets, but
You can't
but
drive
they're not-
around on them on anything either.
Yeah.
I can't
well,
believe
that's
there's not
the-
going to be vehicles in the game. I can't
I
believe
think
it.
they will fix that pretty quick
Yeah.
shot because that is the most glaring hole in an exploratory game, is to not have any way to explore the
bizarre.
planet other than walking. Like,
I don't know
you
if No Man's Sky has vehicles. I'm pretty sure there's ways to get around that planets as other than just walking. Like, you can fly in your ship across them, can't
Yeah.
you? So yeah, it's tricky. That, like, all these space games, man. Like, space games are cool, but then you instantly start running into issues. That's why I'm kind of like Star Wars Outlaws when that comes out. Just give me like 5 or 6 planets and pack them to the rafters. Yeah, so Falcon Slays is pimping his own game in the chat. Good luck with the development on that, buddy. And then he also says, I agree with Matt, whether it be 10 worlds or 1,000. If it's got good mechanics, then I'm definitely playing it. If it's got good graphics, I'm playing it. If it's got story, not only is he playing it, but he's grinding it as well. Didn't know you could grind a story. I thought you could grind for loot and stuff, but yeah, I'll grind a story. And then Nathan follows up with, the environments are procedurally generated, wah, wah, and then Bethesda has gone in and put crafted content around them.
Do you want to know what that sounds like? Do you want to say exactly what that sounds like?
Tell me.
No Man's
Tell us.
Sky at launch. Oh yeah, we've got tons of procedurally generated environments, tons of them. It was meant to be endless, right? You could just keep going forever and ever. And then, do you remember what happened with No Man's Sky at launch? Do I need to tell you guys what happened with No Man's Sky at launch? Because it was bad. It was bad. And the thing is with No Man's Sky is that right now it's a pretty good game. It's pretty good. But do you know why that doesn't matter?
So many updates.
It did so poorly at launch that 90% of its player base never picked it up again, me included. I'd never touched it again after its launch. It was bad. And I think that's the thing that Starfield could do really wrong, is that it could have a really horrid launch and then they might be able to fix it, repair it, sort it out, bring vehicles to the game, update and give more environments to all of these 1,000 planets. Yeah, cool, but people are just going to have such a bad taste in their mouth from their initial playthrough of it that they probably won't touch it again.
Do I need to say the word Cyberpunk 2077? Do I need to say the word Redfall? Because we're still waiting on that 60 FPS patch on Xbox as well, aren't we? But
Oh, how long has it been now? Oh, it's been ages.
but that's the thing. The players have already gone. No one cares anymore. So there's nobody asking. Yeah. Will in the chat, producer Will, says, what happened at launch with No Man's Sky? And to sum it up, it was just like everything was broken. Like the
just
animal
bugs
designs.
galore. Yeah. There was just lots of bugs, and the majority of these procedurally generated environments were basically completely empty. So like the environments were cool to stand and look at for like 30 seconds, and then there was nothing else to do. So it was the combination of both that just destroyed the game.
And obviously the whole thing with No Man's Sky was that it was completely random. Like, your planet that you started on was like your own planet. But if you were dealt a bad card and that it was a rubbish planet full of, well, that didn't have the necessary resources, you would spend a long time getting off that planet before you find like a better one as well. I remember people complaining about that. So yeah, anyway, Baldur's Gate 3, people are enjoying it. Don't know how we got to know.
I do like the fact that with Baldur's Gate 3 that Scratch, the statistic on Scratch being petted is 715,000 times or 50,000 times. I can't remember, but it was over 700,000 times. People stopping to just give him a little ruffle.
That's the downside of Diablo 4. You couldn't pet the dog.
No, but then you can't. You can't pet the dog in Zelda either, but then people were creating
Bad game.
contraptions to pet the dog. Like, they were like these giant robots that would like
you
pat a dog.
You cannot stop us from petting the dog. You can't do it. It's impossible.
We will pet. So before we move on to our next topic, Falcon Slays also says, don't care what anyone says, but story is the most important mechanic in a game.
I don't think that's true.
That's a whole other
Sorry.
debate, because I love stories in games, but I'm with Jasmine. A game
I
needs
don't
to
think that's true.
gameplay is king. Yeah.
I think if that's what you're into, definitely. But
Visual
yeah,
novels
I
and stuff.
do think
Yeah,
gaming has
that's what
just
I was
got
gonna
so diversified that there's so many different things that become like it's specifically important for that game that are way more important than maybe the story or maybe the like a particular mechanic or whatnot. So I think in some cases, yeah, that's probably true. But there are loads of games out there that don't rely on story as much.
Well, if the gameplay isn't good, then you're not going to stick around to see the story, are you, either? Like, I would argue for a lot of things.
You need fluid, like, sort of, nice feeling gameplay and mechanics.
Well, speaking of... Sorry to cut you off, Matt, but that was too good a segue. Speaking of nice feeling mechanics, Call of Duty plays pretty well, doesn't it? Like, one of the best FPSs ever.
Bad
Come on.
segue.
Come on.
Bad segue.
Adam L chimes in at the last possible minute to get a mention of our favourite game. Twisted Metal on the PS3 has a great story. Well, JD Incinerator would know all about that. I wouldn't. Maybe Scott McRae would. Scott McRae, big fan of the Twisted Metal TV show that just came out, actually. So he was telling us about that earlier. Maybe next time he's on the pod, we can quiz him about it. But no, classic Call of Duty games, if you can believe it, were some of the UK's best-selling games last month in July. Xbox's backwards compatibility functionality continues to pay dividends, as it's been revealed that some of the best-selling games in the UK for the month of July were in fact classic Call of Duty titles available on the service. 2009's Modern Warfare 2 and 2012's Black Ops 2 both charted in the top 5 after previous matchmaking issues were fixed on the Xbox platform. It also helped that both games were on sale in the store. The success of these classic Call of Duty titles comes just ahead of Activision's official reveal event for Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, which is set to happen tomorrow. Be sure to watch the accompanying Mirror Gaming stream for that. It was previously leaked via a can of Monster Energy. I'm not joking, that Modern Warfare 3 would be this year's COD entry, and that's despite claims that the franchise would sit 2023 out amidst the ongoing Microsoft Activision deal. So there's a couple of stories here. Obviously, we've got Modern Warfare 3, which Activision has acknowledged is this year's entry, which is a bit of a shake-up because Modern Warfare 2 is what came out last year, I believe. And usually, obviously, we get Treyarch and Infinity Ward and Sledgehammer games alternating. That doesn't seem to be the case now. But I think more so impressive than that, Modern Warfare 2, the original, and Black Ops 2, people are hungry for a decent Call of Duty multiplayer experience. And the first person I want to ask their thoughts on about this is the Warzone expert himself. We've got Overwatch expert, but we've also got the Warzone expert. I'm the expert of nothing. So, Matt, what do you think about Call of Duty games? Like, we were talking before the podcast about our love for classic Call of Duty maps, weren't we?
Yeah, I mean, and like, there's so many maps making a comeback in Modern Warfare 3, but I think when it comes to what's happened with the older Call of Duties even being released on Game Pass and whatnot, I think to me, looking at it, it seems like it's a move to try and keep the part of the community that's nostalgic for old Call of Duty, that wants the old movement back, that wants the old maps back, that wants the old sort of way of Call of Duty back, not this new direction that it's been going in. It's a move to keep those people interested in playing Call of Duty titles. And then coupled with the announcement of the new Modern Warfare 3 and all of the things that we know are coming back, like reload cancelling, slide cancelling, there's 16 classic maps being added back into the multiplayer. It's just all about trying to regain that audience to me, and I think the reason they gave it to Sledgehammer to sort of lead it is because they seem to, over the last few years, even when things have gone bad, and it's not to say they've made every perfect decision ever, but they seem to be the guys that are making positive changes to what the community wants rather than just what it always has seemed like, which is just not being listened to at all. So I think it's not that surprising that they've been some of the best-selling games, because people have just been so at their wits' end about wanting Call of Duty to move past whatever this muddy, murky phase is that they're in at the moment. So to me, it makes perfect sense. It's exactly what I would do if I was trying to keep those people, the sort of older generation of Call of Duty players, happy until something new came out. And I maybe even think that Modern Warfare 3 was, because they originally said that they weren't going to release another game until next year. And I think this is being treated a bit like an add-on, but it's essentially a new game. And I think the reason for that is just more backpedaling of trying to pull those people back in, because they are close to pulling me back in. And I don't know how I feel about that.
I think they know who their audience is right now, and they know who they need to be catering to right now. Like, they tried to get in on the Battle Royale hype with Warzone, and it
some success.
It did well, and then it didn't do well, and then they were kind of like, because that was their opportunity to get in new players. I think like people who were already playing Call of Duty were the ones that bought like Modern Warfare 2 and stuff like that. People who weren't already playing Call of Duty were probably a bit more hesitant about spending so much money on a game they weren't sure if they'd enjoy. And, you know, it's a classic issue that there is with most games right now. Warzone being free to play obviously contributed so much to its success, and then they destroyed it. It ended up going bad. And then I think now it's just given, for new players who didn't play the classics, I think it's given Call of Duty as a whole a relatively like bad reputation. So they know now the way to revitalize it, to keep people happy, is to bring back the classics that their current player base know and love. I think that's what they're what they have to do, right? Like,
I mean, yeah. I mean, I do feel like Call of Duty is one of these things where they were destroyed by their own success when it comes to Warzone, because they thought they had an invincible game, right, that everyone would love no matter what, and then when Warzone 2 approached and came out, everyone was excited, and then they started making announcements about movement changes and how you'd move slightly slower and all of this, and people were like, I'm not sure about that, but we'll see how it goes. And then Modern Warfare 2 comes out, and people are like, well, I kind of like it. Like, when Modern Warfare 2 came out, I started playing the multiplayer. I actually thought it was really good. It was solid. And then when you implement that into a big map like a Battle Royale style, it just didn't have the same feeling of kind of... It didn't have this cool factor that Warzone, the original Warzone, had. And it felt like they had something successful, and they completely just ripped up the rulebook, started again, and that didn't strike me as the right move. So it's hopefully moving back towards trying, like Jasmine was saying, like I was saying, regaining that older community, because I feel like they completely ignored the factors that differentiated Call of Duty and Warzone in particular from what had differentiated it from other battle royales, and they completely ignored that. And so they brought out this sort of, like, to me, what my opinion is a kind of bland battle royale that wasn't very fun to play. It was quite slow and clunky.
But hey, you can wield the powers of Homelander temporarily, you know, like for a week, you know.
I mean, that
was the thing that happened.
Felt like, hey, let's see if we can kind of, like, you know, go the Fortnite route a little bit more and a little bit harder, and see what people's reaction is. And then everyone was like, oh, no, even that was, you know, it was fun for 10 minutes, but even that was not cool. So it feels like they've tried everything now, and now what is staring them in the face is their only option to stay relevant, not successful, because there's always going to be people playing it, but to stay relevant is to try and claw back that audience and do something that the community actually want them to do.
Yeah, I think you both make good points in terms of, like, it's about reminding people about the glory days and heydays of Call of Duty when, I don't know, you'd come home from school and that's all you'd play. You'd pull all-nighters, and Call of Duty was the game. It became part of people's rituals. It was, you'd finish work, you'd finish school, then you'd be on Call of Duty, settle in. That lobby music, you know, is ingrained in people's brains. But I also think, to speak to the Xbox side of it all, I think it's a smart play from Xbox, because we also heard last week that Modern Warfare 3 is a multi-platform release. The Activision Blizzard deal isn't quite done yet, but it looks like it might be done. But, you know, the beta is coming to PlayStation first because the exclusivity deal with Call of Duty is still in place. And I think that by fixing the matchmaking issues on Modern Warfare 2 and Black Ops 2, the original Black Ops is my personal favorite. I don't know what the status of that is. But that's a way of saying, like, we at Xbox care about the Call of Duty experience. And when you come to Call of Duty, we want Xbox to be your, you know, the sort of first thing that comes to your mind. We want to associate Call of Duty with Xbox, because God knows, are we paying enough money for it? So I bet it really irks Xbox a lot that Modern Warfare 3, it's going to have like exclusive skins and stuff in PlayStation as well, I imagine. I don't know if that's announced yet, but the fact that they're getting beta access before Xbox players do, I think tells a lot. In some ways, I reckon Microsoft wouldn't have minded it if Call of Duty took a year off, because then they wouldn't have to like suffer from this publicity blow. But Bobby Kotick obviously likes making money, so that's why they've sort of fudged this Modern Warfare 3, which there's no way they turned around an entire full game campaign in a year. So I'm really curious, and they might show this at the reveal event tomorrow.
I do think it's possible, but I think it's heavily relying on nostalgia. Like, it's heavily relying on what they've already done, what they've already
Salt
had.
McTavish.
Like, it's heavily relying on sort of like older maps, older missions, like sort of, like I say, just that nostalgia element. And that's, I think if you're taking all of that stuff that you've already done, it's a lot, you can sort of get that into a game, or at least like some sort of DLC, like a lot quicker than like a full game. I don't think that this Modern Warfare 3 will be like any other sort of like game that we've had before, where it's feels like full and complete. I think it is very much just an evolution of Modern Warfare 2, and they could have just done like a big Modern Warfare 2 update,
but they're not going to charge you
can't charge
for an expansion.
You can't charge for that like the same way. So the way that they can still get their hype built and try and regain some audience and still make money is this move. And do I blame them for charging that much? Yeah, I do. But also, I know I'm gonna buy it, like, and I hate that about myself. But I
think everyone's got a franchise that they will always buy, no questions asked. Everyone's got that.
It's yeah,
For JD,
and that's what
Twisted
they
Metal.
rely on.
I would like to think that I would wait to see what the wider sort of community said before I bought it, but no, I want to be first, man. I want to be first.
Wait
like,
for the
it's
reviews, Matt.
It's just
no,
But
you can't do that.
Is this
No, you
not
can't.
like the fact that they're heavily relying so much on nostalgia to the point that they're reviving like old games, the games themselves? I think that speaks to the fact that players enjoy a multiplayer experience where they're not constantly being bombarded by battle passes, microtransactions, and the core game is just fun to play. And I feel like Call of Duty and a lot of other franchises have forgotten that over the years, and they're prioritizing microtransactions because they want to make money. But is it not part of Activision must be looking at themselves and be like, great, we're still churning out the same stuff we were 10 years ago instead of pushing the franchise or the genre forward. And I don't think
that's
they
what they
like
do with Warzone. They tried to push it forwards, and but
well, then you try something else, don't you? I hope that's what they've got after this nostalgia wave, is what I'm saying.
I think the problem that they have is they need to rebuild the foundations, like the building blocks of where they go from. And because Warzone 2 and Modern Warfare 2 and the change in the mechanics and the change in so many aspects of the game were not entirely well received by the greater audience of Call of Duty, they now need to rebuild that baseline and then evolve the game rather than try, like, they just messed with all of the parts that everybody liked and then made it worse in a lot of cases. So I think, yeah, that would make sense. You could just go and try something completely new, but then you're shooting in the dark, you don't know if it's going to work. So you need to rebuild the foundations, get back to a point where people are happy playing the game and they like the mechanics, and there's more of a player base, and then you can build from there.
Matt, if you put your thermal goggles on, you won't be shooting in the dark. Right. But no, anyway, I had to get it in there before we were too far away.
I was like, oh, a serious response, and then you said that. And
No.
I was like, oh, okay.
No. I mean, the truth is, like, I don't care. Like, sorry, go on.
I think they were like testing the waters with bringing back Terminal, and they were kind of like seeing what the response would be. And I think like generally people were quite like excited about it, right? Like I don't know after the fact, I don't know if people cared or not, but I remember when they first announced it, people were like, "Oh yeah, like, I can't wait to get back into Terminal and stuff." People were like, "Oh yeah, it's like my childhood and all of this stuff." So like I'm assuming the response was all right, given that now they're creating a whole game which is based around old maps, right?
Yeah, there's 16 confirmed classic maps.
And how were they confirmed, Matt?
Through text message. You can text
Oh, great. I love that. I love when games are
Duty,
fishing for engagement like that. Great.
You can text Call of Duty and the name of a map, and then they will reply
yes or no,
confirming whether that map is in the game. And apparently so far we've found 16.
So they've confirmed 16 classic
that must be
maps.
the full roster.
That's many. Just recycled.
They've just overhauled and recycled those old maps. That's all this is
That's what I'm saying, though, is that they haven't brought anything new. It's just all the same old stuff, and then it's a new game that you have to pay for. Insane scenes over Activision.
Well, let's see it tomorrow.
Right now.
I think the thing is, though, the thing that's it sounds crazy, right? But it's what we like. We've wanted.
It's what people want.
It's what people want. Yeah, at this stage, it's what people want.
It's what people want.
You know, it's been proven with people going to play the old.
Not what they want to pay for.
Titles.
Yeah,
but
well, there you go.
It might not be something people want to pay 70, 80 pounds for, but it certainly is something.
I think Call of Duty players have Stockholm syndrome. I think they do. I think they sat here thinking, "Oh yeah, we want Call of Duty to be good so badly. How can they do that? Oh, I know, bringing back 16 maps that we've already played over the years, and then making me pay £80 for them.
Yeah,
what on earth?"
It is like an abusive relationship, I will say that much, being a Call of Duty fan at the moment.
Because you're still going to buy it at launch, you're still going to buy it on release day, aren't you, Matt? Crazy stuff.
They've done this before, like they remastered the original COD 4, like Modern Warfare, and released it for like PS4, Xbox One, with its multiplayer complete and intact. At launch, it didn't have microtransactions or loot boxes, but then they eventually added it because they saw that they had a good thing going on. Like, oh, people like this old Call of Duty. Then they did Modern Warfare 2, surprisingly absent multiplayer mode because they didn't want people getting too, it's a bad look if your remastered multiplayer for an old game is more popular than the new hotness. But then it's not my fault if you want to put out a game called Call of Duty Vanguard and nobody cares about it. But going off of what Matt said earlier, I think it says a lot that ever since Warzone became a thing, Call of Duty's been struggling. Ever since Overwatch went free to play, it's been struggling. People see these trends, they try jumping on them, and once you let that genie out of the bottle, a bit like Xbox Game Pass, trying to re-educate people to play how they did before, the way that made you the most money, is a very difficult thing to do. But before we get too carried away, we've got a bunch of comments here. Nathan says, I'm more excited about Warzone Mobile than Modern Warfare 3.
Nathan, are you okay? What are you talking about?
Starfield Mobile.
I was excited about Modern Warfare, about Call of Duty Mobile, like Warzone Mobile, but now I think it's like it's 50-50. Like with I want to see what they've fixed. But I'm gonna.
How can you be more excited about a free-to-play game going to mobile than a whole new game coming out? That's a bad look for the new game, isn't it? That's bad.
I mean. But I think the reason people are so excited about Warzone Mobile is A, it's a new way to play, but B, it's like gonna have a version.
Getting the marketing line in there, a new way to play, Call of Duty Mobile.
Yeah,
yeah, it's true. Scott McRae's also in the chat, says Twisted Metal on the TV. We were talking about that earlier, Scott. We name checked you and we said you enjoyed the TV show, so yeah. And then Adam L, in what is likely to be the final comment of the day, Prove me wrong, chat. Prove me wrong. Says old CODs had the best map designers, though.
See, this is what I'm
And
talking about. The Stockholm
do think
syndrome.
that's true.
The Stockholm syndrome. People are locked in thinking, "Oh no, it's going to be fine. That like it's going to go back to the way it was before." But you know what you have to do before that happens? You have to pay for the new game, Adamel. You have to pay for the new game. The new game, which is the same as the old games you've been playing.
Wait,
this whole time.
it
What's
doesn't
going
now.
on?
You can just pick up Modern Warfare 2 on the Xbox and have a good time
God,
at the moment.
what is going on? What is going on?
Yeah.
Call of Duty
But,
players, I tell you.
complete side note though, do you think the people of Stockholm hate it when Stockholm syndrome gets referenced? Like,
I think it's unfair.
what are we known for in this country? Like, yeah. Okay. Anyway, I think
We've got one last comment now. See, look, chat proved you wrong.
he did.
And it's
Scott
the
McRae
worst.
says
It's
Twisted
two
Metal.
more, and they're the worst ones.
Adam L says, "I want a remake of Twisted Metal on the PS3." Come on, let's make that happen.
Come on, Adamel. Come on.
Yeah, this is a true story. We thought that the PS3 version of Twisted Metal was available through the streaming thing, and then Scott's just spamming the chat full of Goku.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think we should leave it there. Put a pin on this week's edition of the Mirror Gaming Walkthrough. But Jasmine, Matt, thank you so much for joining me. Your shooter-based opinions were much appreciated, and
Thank you for having us.
Yeah,
that's right. Anytime. I imagine Nathan Bliss Esquire will be back next week, so I look forward to that. But Matt, tomorrow you and Nathan are streaming the Modern Warfare 3 launch event. What time is that happening?
We will be. At the moment, we'll go live either around 5:30 or 6:30, so it will be sometime in that time frame.
Cool.
But yeah, it should be good.
Nice. So people finish work, finish school, and then they can tune straight
School in the summer holidays. Love that.
in. Yeah. Oh, what is it? Summer holidays? Come on.
Sorry.
Oh, cry me a river. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining us on the Mirror Game Walkthrough. We'll be back next week for even more spicy takes and juicy gossip. But as Matt said, do be sure to tune in tomorrow for the Modern Warfare 3 reveal event. But until next time, thanks for watching and bye-bye for now.